Since the day or so after September 17th, I injured myself. I had a long-term injury. This is a full perioneal tendon tear all around my foot, as you can see. And this is going to be a bone graft eventually, but I was at a Christian domestic violence home, and I twisted this on the ice maker, and then I fell down the stairs up and back down, and they thought I was an insurance risk, and I've been trying to get arbitration, so that's how I came here. They took my daughter. Yeah, this is an old scar, and it will be a bone graft. I had hardware put in 2016. It's been hurt 3 times since, so this one is the bone graft. And this was from tripping over the baby gate and back, and I've been reaching out for arbitration, but instead I was given one night in a motel and made homeless. So that's how I got here, the Eli home.
So so we're back today with Kat. So it's been a couple, it's right before Thanksgiving, right?
Yes,
after,
right before Thanksgiving.
It was actually the day after Thanksgiving.
Sure, yes.
Yeah. So, and back then you had a fracture, something going on because you slipped over a doorway in a shelter or something like that?
Yeah, and I can kind of, if you did before, I can kind of point my point, do it concisely, and then you can ask if that's okay.
Okay.
So long story short, my daughter, Gina Louise, was born on 4/16/22, an emergency C-section. I'd always wanted to be a mother, and she was amazing, but unfortunately I fell into the system kind of incorrectly. Her father, Warner Finley, is a serial abuser, and what ended up happening is I was labeled a safety risk because the man was stalking and raping me. Sergeant Ray at the Orange PD put together about 15 times out here. He stalked and raped me with GHB. Basically, the WTLC, that shelter, kicked me out with no paperwork. I had a verbal contract to secure entry to the Eli home and get 2 weeks there in the transitional unit, the Eli home. And once I did an interview and had that, I should have had 2 weeks extension of the WTLC, and they refused it. The Eli home I went to, and I only had 1 violation. They let me go. I ended up becoming homeless. About the time I found you guys, I had fallen in love. At that point, I had needed a bone graft. This is a titanium rod with 6 screws, and I've got a PTSD kinesthetic trigger that's actually taken these out. This was a perioneal tear from the Eli home originally. I now ran in a PTSD across the street in a traffic pattern and ended up hitting a car. It was Huntington Beach basic medical treatment, so this is a fracture. I think that and that are fractured. Those are 4 broken toes.
So it was already injured, and then you got hit by a car?
Yes, then just about last week I got hit by a car.
How'd that happen?
I had PTSD and went across the street and actually hit a car. There's 3 broken toes or 4 that haven't set yet, and I had 3 pieces of glass shoved into my foot that actually are exploding from the tendon. That's because I unknowingly became a victim of Jose Besaldenia. He was back in the country from 1996. The OC Register did an award-winning article on embryo theft at UCI. I became pregnant with 4. I had a vanishing twin. People assumed that I had given consent for 2 of my embryos to be taken. I did not, and I ended up miscarrying on my way for a nice final child on the back steps of an Episcopalian church behind North Tustin Walmart. My records have been updated. I have a deeply infiltrating gastrointestinal endometriosis, which is a rare form of cancer from Roux-en-Y, about a 7-year end-of-life diagnosis, about 2 years in. I went from a heart arrhythmia to a left atrial enlargement to valvular endocarditis, pending an MRI for endomyocardial fibrosis. And my left lung was reinflated somehow with saline because of 100% respiration, but 17, 18, 19% oxygenation. All along out here, it's been kind of thrown into the system, so I've been exposed to everything. I'm still not choosing fentanyl or heroin. The same.
Oh, that's what you said you're not using?
Still not, like the first one. No fentanyl, no heroin. It is methamphetamine, about $2 amount every day and a half to keep me.
$2?
About, $2 every day and a half. Literally,
Oh, that's
about 4
good.
hits. Well, it's not something I do by choice, but my prescriptions are Cymbalta, which is 180 milligrams, Lamictal, a stimulant mood stabilizer, which is 200 milligrams, and risperidone, 3 milligrams. But I had insurance fraud. I had surgery for this cancer, and I had insurance fraud. I went in to the Region 1 Trauma Center with a priority authorized urgent referral, and it ended up being canceled, and through fraudulent purposes, I was backdated to 10/3 for the wrong surgery, and I was separated from my psychiatrist and my cardiologist. quite a bit has happened, and what it basically boils down to is my daughter, and you can look at, there's some articles coming out in the Register, and I have cases, I have actually 1.2 million, my boyfriend and I, criminal conspiracy to commit murder against the County of Orange, Title II at the state level. My boyfriend has 2 strikes, and he was running what's called commutations, where they assist. What usually happens somehow is it mimics a prior behavior that they have actually exhibited and ends up putting that person away. My daughter was a kickback from this county to another county. She went to an abusive ex-EMT who actually wanted to get into July 1st, 2011, their senior disabled housing. My daughter had PFO, a hole between her left and right ventricle. Fed appropriately, it's 5.5 ounces to 3 scoops of food. It's 24 calories from a powdered formula, and it's every 3 hours to 2.5 hours. She has to clear 4 to 5 ounces. What ended up happening is if she was fed inappropriately, she's permanently disabled. That's how she can be a permanent resident in a
Your daughter's
disabled
disabled, you said?
Well, she would be permanently disabled
Oh,
if
she
that
would
happened.
be.
Unfortunately, her birth father is incredibly abusive, and the first thing he did is my cat ended up, our kitten, he got our cat Cece. You can contact Demetrius Hall. He used to be the Animal Safety Net program manager. He got her out of when she was taken from her extension. My ex actually cut out her eyes, microwaved her, and actually drowned her. He stalked and raped me. My boyfriend and I had our embryos stolen. I was framed as an abuser and left out here basically to die. How it works is when you work for a living, and there was a notice of closure December 1st. Instead, it was extended 1 time each month, and I was refused GR, basically so that it would sweep the problem away. In the meantime, with all these things happening, injuries have gotten worse. I've been unable to find help. It's been absolutely insane. My father, William Joseph McDonough III, Bill McDonough, if you look him up, he was the executive international vice president of Eaton, EATON Global Corporation. He was actually murdered. My uncle or his frat
Your
brothers.
dad was murdered?
Yes, he came out to help me. There'll be more coming out in the Register. I may be going into protective custody shortly.
Going to where?
To protective custody shortly. Additionally, Salvatore Bragna was the CEO of Inform Med and the CEO of Intuitive Med. He may or may not have passed away. You can check with Mary's Kitchen about what happened there. There's a domestic terror group called QAnon that assisted the Heritage Foundation. I'm not certain if you're aware of them. I have a 1990 diagnosis for Asperger's syndrome. They don't find autists that we should exist, and that's why ADA certified I'm an autist. Over the past little bit, multiple autists, what they do to us when we're child, it's like cutting the wings of a butterfly. There's something in your brain where they limit your IQ potential. I was always told mine was 152. My full potential is 195. So somehow out here I was placed as an abuser for the Heritage Foundation, and literally horrible things. I don't want to say the ugly, but while that happened, I kept telling everybody to find my daughter because the person who my former coworker had not her mom, but this kickback woman, an abusive foster mom living with her. She gave my daughter to Warner Finley, our abuser, willingly. And this girl from the WTLC, Melissa, Unit 6, had a QAnon element to her. Begged for 5 weeks for everybody to find my daughter. She was murdered on Big Bear Mountain, and I never got to go say goodbye to her. Warner threw her out of a car going down Rim of the World with the original iPhone, and I lost her completely. It's horrible. That's the criminal conspiracy to commit murder and frame me. Heritage Foundation actually tried to walk me to my death through Anaheim. They use EMF pulses, which are what my dad, he started in Krauss-Heinz. He uses EMF. It uses hazardous lighting material, which actually reinforces the transatlantic cables. When I was 15, my mom became ill with RSDS from a bad surgery.
RSDS?
RSDS, reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, a rare disease. And my dad had to struggle between being a father and a husband. He said something. He said, "You're going to die alone with no friends and no family because you're a piece of shit," just like my dad. He didn't mean it. He came from an abusive family, and he found that overeating or using substances or being selfish to be abusive behaviors, but he was struggling. He always tossed baseballs to me, everything. What I didn't realize in general is that communication was hard for him because he likely looked a lot like his father. When he and my mother actually fell in love in college, he took her home to introduce her to his parents and to the family. His father put his hands on his mother for the last time. He took him outside and beat the crap out of him. So he had trouble communicating, but we always spoke in songs. That material that is now being used, EMF stimulation, we're a World Health Organization crisis. About 300 years, Doctors Without Borders was refused, the Orange Curtain is down, and there's an ID coding violation, and people are refusing to call dispatch. The FCC, it's L. Horton 1736, fcc.gov, has tried to get me on a Cisco server since Oh, I would guess September because of the violations. There's religious non-intervention clause for an autist hunt. Basically, they were going to walk me through and kill me, and I'm not an abuser. I survived that. I'm trying to go ahead and get help. I'm absolutely, the methamphetamine is a stimulant. Most autists who've had run-ins with the Heritage Foundation turn to pain because our pain, we turn to opioids. A stimulant is the better option. So it's been a bit scary. The actual Night Stalker has been cited. They brought back everybody's ghosts. There may be additionals. There was a child molester from Memphis, Tennessee that I begged all of Anaheim to contact. Miss Patty Sachenbacher is aware. Janelle Perry, Chris Sachenbacher, and her original husband from Alabama may have multiple children across state lines. They put up Wi-Fi, and there may be children missing. Quite a bit going on. What I've come around to is many things, but the first thing is I sent something to Merrick Garland. There's something called the E-Cures 2020 Omnibus Act, and it's digital imaging. What I would like is basically all prisoners to have full citizenship and voting rights, digital imaging for everybody, all our records accurate, all the way back to any foster care in the beginning. The reason of that is that we need to be able to go ahead and take care of step-up care. And in addition, there is two things that cause endocarditis. It's methamphetamine use and it's nicotine, it's cigarettes. So if kratom came into this country with no schedule, that may be a generic. I would guess a brand name drug to treat endocarditis, heart attacks, high blood pressure, and popcorn lung from smoking salt nicotinic would be methanativan. That's the thing we're labeled as, right? It labels you as it so you can't get it. I don't think there should be any exclusions for that, which means all history and everything. I also requested an OIG, Office of the Inspector General, Washington, fraud, waste, and abuse audit for hospitals, for social services. I'd like one for prisons and commutations as well. The reason for that is 2019, our Region 1 ED Supervisor, Danielle Mautaumis, dca.ca.gov, her license is illegal. All that's illegal.
The license is illegal?
Illegal, our Region 1 trauma. So if you've been treated in this reason through the ED, her license is illegal. Secondly, if you look at the intake system for children in foster care, it is CWS. That's the probation intake system. It says CDMSA. The beta version has likely been going since 2019. They use iPhone, CWS. Then if you look at basically prisons, fraud, waste, abuse, commutations are prisoners with one or more strike that have to help out with social services. Usually the behavior that they are actually required to mimic or be around or complicit to is their third strike and sends them away for life. And it's one they don't want to exhibit. It's torturous. So I think that this would take a look, because with a quadruple-line business model I thought of, diversity, equality, integrity, transparency, values on the bottom and values on the top. It needs the few outweigh the many outweigh the few. The waste is in the middle, and the proper thing to do is not just run and shout accusations. It's to slow down, take a minute, study everything, and find out how we can do better.
Exactly.
And if we're in a PUA 1 and PUA 2 grab to get money back from the federal government and no longer a donor state, it goes back to 2020, the beginning of the pandemic. Be 2019, all this started. That would be the right place to stop and look.
There you go. So when you got hit by the car, you said you did not go to the doctors?
Well, I rolled over and they offered me a 5150 because I was scared of medical treatment. I've been scared. For example, I was in Anaheim dealing with the Heritage Foundation. I was told, EMTs were talking about, they were told to inject me with a lethal dose of fentanyl if I'd gotten on an ambulance in Anaheim. They refused to call the 202 FCC dispatch number. And additionally, when I shouted out to them that there were child molesters because I saw Wi-Fi go up of Janelle Perry and that there were children in trauma, they refused to do anything. They ignored me, didn't help me at all. So I was afraid of ambulances, but I was treated at Huntington Beach. It's basic medical care, so I got my imaging, but I can't do anything without my phones. I had 10 phones stolen in Anaheim. The police said they could not take a report. They were on and up. I put one in the Target in the charging box. It was closed. I couldn't get it back. It was taken. I told them I was an unknowing victim of Basildania. They refused to take a report. Yet one of them clutched his nightsticks, threatened me, and asked if I pooped on the ground. Social services basically swept me under the rug. My daughter was a kickback, right? It would mean she was given to one county from another, but a temporary removal, family reunification. I never abused. This lady gave her to Warner Finley, my abuser, our abuser, on her own, and did it, and for 5 weeks nobody looked for her until on Big Bear Mountain in Airbnb Plus. The original iPhone I had from Bob Waltrip, an old Verizon wireless employee, 714-873-5054. I tried to port it to Straight Talk, but I didn't generate a number transfer pin. That iPhone, Dr. Moniak at Hoag Newport, he's my daughter's delivering OB. He's also an MD and FACOG robotic surgeon. He actually, my chart was wrong. All my illnesses look crazy. He said, call me if anything's wrong. Warner Finley was actually logged into the Epic My Chart, and he was creating violations. He was changing my health information, and also they were uploading things like Cabin in the Woods from a shared Google Drive from Anthony Calvert. Dr. Maniak, actually, I was trying to activate an iPad mini, Spectrum reset globally, and Apple reset globally, and I saw Chopper come down. Nobody ever asked me if I wanted to see my daughter, but I guess they tortured my 11-month-old to death up there. It was horrid, and I'm still trying to get better and possibly get to protective care. My boyfriend is absolutely amazing, and we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
But
so where are you
crazy.
staying right now?
Right now out here, which is unsafe, which they're talking about protective custody. My wallet was either given to the police or to my boyfriend, but the point is to force him into complicity. So it was given to him. He has my permission to have it. He is not responsible. I actually saw county paperwork. They filed a murder trial for me already with him as the defendant, already county level, which is why my dad, a man named Kevin Molyneux, was treated horribly by the Heritage Foundation, made fun of. They called him speaking in Wolfanese. My dad passed, but this man, my dad gave him the ability to pre-file. So there's a Title II, State of California, and it's basically civil rights against County of Orange, criminal conspiracy to commit murder. On my behalf, my boyfriend did a diagnosis as well. I believe it's PTSD, what I would guess. I don't know his. Mine is Asperger's, autism, which is why they think I should be, I guess, Heritage Foundation autists. We don't deserve to exist. But that is it's 1.2 million or billion against the County of Orange.
Can they go back to your diagnosis to get your medication going again?
I do need to get back to my psych, but I've had no resources, no phones. That's why I'm trying to get to social services. All my clothing stolen, wallet stolen. I have nothing. I have to beg for food. I have no money, and people make fun of me and they frame me as a homeless prostitute, which I'm not. And men have tried to rape me. Other men ask me for things. It's been terrifying. When I'm trying to get to a Sonesta Suites. My SSA, Warner Finley, edited my pay stub. I made $30 an hour while pregnant, and even that's wrong. So many HIPAA insurance violations, it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
But basically the biggest thing is that the orange curtain, there's my Uncle Sal, I call him Sal Brogna, did coding for Intuitive Med or Inform Med. What it does, it's like when you go to the hospital, you scan, it actually has a modifier in it. It will label a gender or race. It will say it out. There's a thing they put in you for computations, like a little thin thing that adds Bluetooth, but it'll say a gender or modification. For example, it'll say a word like a culture. Then you PTSD, it catches the trigger and it actively causes modifiers. That's why I actually went across that traffic. Additionally, Anaheim La Palma Social Services, where I filed a civil rights complaint after first calling program integrity and being told that autism wasn't a protected condition. They are getting overtime, getting in cars in Anaheim and driving through wasn't one of them. But that modifier is an FCC violation, which is why they've been trying to contact it. It's horrid.
Right.
And it's kept it quite a bit out.
Do you by do you by chance have any social media information in case anybody wants to reach out to you?
Yes.
Or Cash App or Facebook
Yeah,
or anything?
Cash App I don't have. Facebook I do, and I don't have a proper email. I haven't created an email, but I actually I have counsel, but my dad picked counsel.
What happened?
My dad picked counsel as part of Kamala Harris's law firm, so I'm not
I
sure of
wasn't
counsel.
paying attention.
I'm
Sorry
not sure
about
Mr. Gambino's email, but let me go ahead and I'm locked out of my Gmail, so I haven't created a new one. In social media, everybody has my phones. They're in all my social media, and I don't have a phone number. I believe Mike Gambino may be in town. Salvatore Brogna, I'm not certain. But actually, Dr. Charles Wallace Maniak, if you can get in touch with him, there might be something to set up, because Lori, L-O-R-I Thompson, Esquire, is the counsel I chose, but my dad may have chose other counsel for me before he passed away. Give me just a second, though. I'll write down what I can, and if you can write down yours, I can get in touch with you if that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just do that. I'll write down my information for you, and then if you give me yours, it'd be amazing. But the scary thing is they almost clip your wings of a butterfly. They stop you with Heritage Foundation. It's this EMF material. It hurts you, and then they unfurl them. So I was supposed to be 152, but I'm actually 195 is the full IQ potential. But that material, my dad in Memphis, $500 I asked for a computer so that I could work, and he said, I'm going to turn off my number. I'm never going to contact you again. I spent $130,000 a month of my parents' money, all kinds of horrible things. That EMF material, he turned into material that reinforces the transatlantic cables under the ocean. So in my time of crisis, he came back. Pastor of hell at Eastside Christian Church is the first church that ever made sense to me. He told me, your earthly father may have left you, but your heavenly father ever did. I may not have even been able to hug my dad goodbye, and I certainly don't blame my boyfriend or anybody else who's close to me. But literally, I was not able to hug him goodbye yet with the EMF material, that horrible stuff that hurt my brain and can hurt me now. Literally, he turned it into a way to reinforce the transatlantic cables in this horrible weather year, so that if I needed help, he heard me cry out to him.
Yeah.
It's an amazing miracle. So, thing. Let me write this down. Thank you. Let's see. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and give you, I'm not sure if his family is here, but Pat Jones, Patricia Jones, is my dad's sister. It's my Aunt Pat. And her email is pmjones52@gmail. Don't use this necessarily for contributions, but if you let her know about this video, then she'll find a way to get in touch with me.
Go ahead and keep the pen
Thank
in case
you.
you need it. And then lastly, are you okay if we use the video on our YouTube channel?
Absolutely, and just because you asked, methamphetamine, I'm using a stimulant. This, all this injury, and this and those, that, you know what, a gentleman just said, I've got a bottle of like 10, 30 milligram Roxy's because you look like you're in pain. I said, no, I'm so proud. I have had opioids in the past. I'm not an opioid user. All this, and I said no. I just simply had some water. I'm so proud of myself today.
Wow, that
It's
must
a
be
big
very
deal.
painful. You know, before we let you go, can you go, one thing that I really liked about your last interview, do you mind going over your resume one more time? Because
yes.
it's just like amazing, like
Yeah.
Fullerton College and all
Yeah,
this
actually,
stuff
there's
and
an
the
update on that. So the original resume. So I started out. Really, first job was at Farmington Presbyterian Church daycare at 14. The daycare I went to as a child. I was at high school making 70 under the table. An hour I thought I was making bank, right? Then out here in California, it would have been the YMCA after school. Then it would have been in my first year of college was University of Memphis. Then second year to establish residency was Saddleback College. I got my AA. This third and fourth were at Cal State Fullerton. It was my bachelor's in English Lit. Then I graduated January 2005 with my, not lifetime, but my multiple subject matter teaching credential K through 8 and my single subject matter in 9 through 12. Then I was at Village Way Property Management. Then Verizon Wireless, I was a Tier 2 tech support until 2014. I was on unemployment for a bit and then worked for Apple, iOS Tier 1 chat. And then I moved to Memphis and I left them for Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz as desktop support. Came back here and then I was, I believe it was Apex Technical Support at St. Joe's. And then it was St. Joe's and something out at Apex Technical. Tech Systems where I worked while pregnant. I was actually project manager. I was moving B2B accounts from Sprint to T-Mobile. And then in between that, before pregnancy, I was working at Kaiser and Corona help desk, and they'd offered my job back, but I ended up moving to Eagle Rock with my daughter and I as a user. But my current business idea is I'm developing an app. My daughter passed away. Her name is Jean, J-E-A-N, Eloise Finley, and I got an app idea. It's awful, 11 months old and rough. But in honor of that, I thought of an app called Genius, Jeanius. What it is basically it would use a watch, some sort of smartwatch. It monitors your pulse, monitors your heart rate, it monitors all kinds of things because the EMF reinforcing these materials, if you have a heart arrhythmia and say you use Bluetooth, it can cause a heart attack. With all that, it monitors if you use Pandora or any playlist, instead of having to hit like or dislike, it can cue your music and bring you up to a target heart rate in a workout. It'll have your health information. It'll keep you calm in an anxiety attack. It'll keep you in a deep REM. My idea is to somehow come with a business plan where the watch comes with a government phone. The app is always free. And additionally, you'd have a 50 to 100 mAh rechargeable surge protector, both plug in and pull down the solar credits to bring people back to work and kind of get the money back down here so we can go ahead and start getting things better.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat.
Thank you very much.
Nice
I
to see
appreciate
you.
it. Take care. Thank you. Appreciate it.